Howdy folks, Little John, and I'm in the brewery. Just had a swim after work on a Thursday afternoon. It's not the end of the week, I've got to work tomorrow. I'm actually coming to the end of this patch of having to work Fridays post the other side of Christmas. After I've had a couple of weeks off in January, I'll be back to Monday to Thursday again. Friday's off, so return to normal normal programming. I can do me back to doing bloody brews on idiot brews and videos on a Friday. I'm giving everyone shit on a Thursday night by posting up my weekend beers on Facebook. So anyway, if you want to sit down, have a beer and have a bit of a chat. This is based around some discussion that was had on Facebook just a couple of days ago around rinsing yeast, or keeping yeast on hand, rinsed, washed, however you want to look at it. And in the process, I'd sort of mentioned my Yeast Bank, and I've got a reasonable number of strains on hand. And someone had said, "Oh, be a good topic for a video," and it actually is. And I have done it previously. I have discussed, had a video on Yeast Bank, but it was more specifically on, it was more generalised on building a yeast bank and why to do it and whatnot. I thought today I might have just a bit of a run through what my yeast bank actually looks like, and the sort of stuff like what I've got here, and how it looks and how I run with it, just for anyone who really might be thinking again about getting into a yeast bank and what's involved, what they've got to do. Now I'm not going to go through all the equipment. There's other videos on washing yeast, on making starters, which are your start and finish of your yeast bank, and are vital parts of maintaining it. But I just want to focus on the actual yeast itself, what I've got on hand, and how I run with it. And thought I might as well have myself a beer. So crack into a fat yak, a little bit gassy. Give me a second to sit. But anyway, at the moment, this is pretty much my stocked up yeast bank. This is what I've got in washed and rinsed yeasts. Yeasts? I don't think yeasts is a word. Yeast. And just to give you an idea of how much I do rely on this, on the yeast bank itself, this is the extent of my dry yeast collection. I've got 2 packets of EC 1118, which are used for lemonade, ginger beer, occasionally ciders. I've got 2 Nottinghams and a Lemon Munich. Not even a slight packet of USA 5 sitting about, and some whiskey yeast. So that's the extent of my dry yeast collection at the moment. So I need to rely on other stuff to make my batches. So this is how I store my yeast after I've rinsed it. And here's a couple of jars. That I prepared earlier. This is just a USA 5, which I've actually rinsed another part of that off and got it in the fridge, and it's just waiting to be put into a vial. But there's still this is actually the A5 I top cropped and used in this actual I think it actually was in this fat yak by memory. Could have been. I'm not sure, I'd have to check my notes, but there's a little bit of yeast there. I could still rinse that one down a bit further if I wanted, but I'm not going to at the moment, because I said I've got to. But this is where I go to. I go to vials, and I've got a couple of different kinds, but basically, there's blue ones, there's orange ones, but they're all the same. They're just these are 50 ml. They sometimes refer to as a centrifuge vial. They're just basically lab vials. They're bloody plastic, and they're pretty cheap if you're willing to get them in from China and wait 3 or 4 weeks for them to turn up. I think I got ones that got 30 for about, it might have been like $12 or $13. So what I have is all these vials of quantities of yeast that's been rinsed, and it's ready to be used to make starters. Now this vial here, it's got 15 ml of yeast. Now well, it's going to show up there, but it varies from batch to batch exactly how much I've got, and the longer they stay in the fridge, the more it compacts. But just to get an idea of how that compares to commercially bought yeast, there's a Belgian ale, WLP 575. Anybody who's used liquid yeast for a while know that's a White Labs vial that they've not used for quite a bit. This one, here you go, April the 8th 2012. This in fact was probably one of the very first liquid yeast I ever bought, and it was out of date I think when I bought it. It was when I very first started playing around with yeast, and I bought a couple and never actually got around to cracking this one. I'd never made a Belgian. But it does give you an idea of how much yeast you actually get in a commercial package. There's another one, that's a San Francisco lager, WLP 810, exactly what you use to do a steam beer. And you can see how much is in the bottom of those vials. It's fairly comparable to what I've got here. So on a commercial level, you're only getting around that 15 ml of actual yeast anyway, which works out as it's generally about, they say about 100 billion cells, and good healthy yeast is, when it's freshly done, is around 6 billion cells per milliliter. So that gives you around that 100 billion cells in that vial. So I can take one of these, stick it into a starter and build it up. Now obviously something that's from 2012, which is now 7 years old, it's going to take a little bit of work, but again that's a different video. But I can brew inside of 2 weeks with just a little bit of my own effort and a little bit of dry malt. I can build that up to enough to pitch into in any beer I want. Effectively 23 litres of high gravity Belgian ale, which would require maybe 4 or 5 vials of fresh yeast, which would cost you $50 to $65 depending on where you get it from. Cost me maybe an hour of my time and a couple of dollars worth of dry malt. And that's why I keep the Yeast Bank. One of the reasons, cost savings, but also to have a variety of yeast on hand and not have to worry about buying it every time I want it. I'm brewing a batch, I can just go, okay, what am I going to use? I'll try something different. Okay, and that's the big part of the bank, is having that variety available when you want to brew. That's coming up nice, that fat yak. Videos there for brew day, go back and have a look at it if you're interested. It's definitely nicer than the real deal, not a bad drop. So it's about variety, having different things on hand if you want to make choices. I've got the basics. I've got USA 5. I've got me list here. Okay, just a basic list of what I've got, but it does show that I've got 2 batches of USA 5. I've got an older batch which is from late last year, so it's like 12 months old, and I've got Now I've now got a fresh batch, which is coming out. We'll go into a vial later today. I've got Nottingham, BRY 97. I've got those core sort of ale yeast sitting there. Yeah, take your pick what you want to do. I've got 2 lots of the BRY 97. I always try to do 2 vials of each batch when I do it, because I've learnt that things go wrong and you can lose one, so you always have a backup. And I said, you go back and look at the Yeast Bank video, I actually talk about that process and how long and how many batches you can get out of keeping 2 small vials of yeast. But yeah, I've got White Labs Copenhagen lager yeast. This is one. It's just a fresh one here. I've only batched. That's a fresh one, 6 days ago. Came off my last batch of Pilsner, Copenhagen lager. For a long time, it was a difficult yeast to get hold of. So I used to use Y yeast Danish lager on my Aussie lagers, and they stopped making it. Really, well, probably wasn't out of the blue, but I wasn't aware they were stopping it. By the time I had realised they'd stopped it, I'd used my last, what I had in stock, not realising it was running out, and hadn't banked any of it. And that was the drive that got me back into really starting my yeast bank again, was when I could not get that Danish lager again. So now I make sure I got a good whack in Copenhagen on hand for my Aussie lagers. Yeah, as part of that double batch, I was using Rocky Mountain lager. Same thing, he was done only a week ago. I keep that. That's a nice lager. I'm actually thinking, judging from initial samples, could well be my go-to yeast for my Aussie Pilsners. I think it's actually cleaner than the Copenhagen, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, nice Marzen yeast, Oktoberfest. Yeah, you're not always not sort of beer you're brewing all the time, but it's there. I bought it once, I can make up a new batch. I haven't got to worry about spending money every time I want to go and buy it. Yeah, there you go. There's some US-05 Generation 1, and this is another thing you get. You get this generational where the yeast is a little bit different from one generation to the next, from batch to batch. There is a belief that any yeast needs to be brewed at least once and then washed and reused to get its best character. That you don't get the true character and the best out of that yeast in its first batch, when it's first pitched. Again, where yeast banking is of great benefit. I've not tried that method. One day I may actually do a comparison. Hasn't happened yet, but one day it will. I will do that comparison between a fresh batch of US-05 and a second or third generation rinse yeast. S189. Swiss lager yeast. Again, just sitting there, I can just warm them up whenever I want to go. No problem at all. So it's about having all these different things on hand, having options. Same thing there. I've got, if I want to pop out a pommy ale, I've got on hand. I've got London Ale Free from New England IPA, but it will also work well in a porter. I've got SO4 sitting there. I've got Mangrove Jack's Burton Union, which is a discontinued yeast. You can't get it anymore. Actually, no. I think I haven't crossed it right out, but I should have. That was a stuff up. I lost that yeast. And again, this is what I say about having that 2 batches. That was a lesson learned. The Burton Union got lost. It was a dud batch. Something went really wrong, and I'd lost the yeast. So this is the reason. I have 2 lots of everything. I've got a Trapper's High Gravity Imperial Juice, which is a really good New England IPA as well. Got English IPA, Yeast Bourbon IPAs. Got these fellas sitting there, which are old as the hills and just never got around to brew them. And why so got cheap. British Cask, Thames Valley. There's a Belgian dark in there as well. Yeah, so they're all there, ready to go. I can make up a starter, and within 4 or 5 days, I've got them ready to go into a new batch. I've even got Kvik in here, Kvik in here. I can cover pretty much any brew I want to brew, just quickly by going in the fridge and grabbing out a jar or a vial and making up a starter. And I don't need to worry about making sure I've got dry stuff sitting around or buying it and ordering it in. So if you're interested in getting this sort of thing happen, having a good stock of yeast on hand, it's not hard to do, it's not expensive. Go back, like I said, watch the videos, starters, yeast washing, get yourself some stuff. It's easy to do, you can do it without too much trouble. If you've got any questions or comments, always stick them down the bottom. If you haven't subscribed to Little John, hit the subscribe button down the bottom. If you're thinking about becoming a Patreon, hit the Patreon link down the bottom, give a little bit of support. It's always welcome. But other than that, that's me, Little John, for the day. I'm done. I'm out of here. Gonna finish my beer. So, till I see you again, talking beer, brewing beer or drinking beer, good brewing.